Hey everybody. So today was bench day. Um, Not a 10-hour, 11-hour day like I had. Well, no, it was a 10-hour day today. Not 11 like the prior two, but a 10-hour day. They're from 5:30 to 15:30, and then a nice hour and 15 drive home. Enough complaining. Got benching today. I haven't done my accessory work yet, but I wanted to do this video before I got too toasty, and also while I still had some thoughts in my head. First thing, a few people watching these videos, which is cool, and I got a little bit of feedback. Gentleman at the forum that I post these on, Exodus Strength, which is a hashtag that's below. Gentleman and scholar named Rallium is his handle. He said he liked the videos and asked me a few questions about some thoughts on basically training stuff that I had. I'll post like a screenshot of like maybe some of those questions. But anyhow, one of the things he asked is kind of like what have I learned along the way, or like what's something important that I learned in training, or what I've changed or done differently kind of question. Like hindsight is 2020. The thing I'd say probably number one thing would be is specifically once I started getting over 40 was understanding balancing programming and what I would call in situ response. And that, yeah, I programmed that I should be able to do X, Y, and Z on this day, but reality there's X, Y, and Z plus an error term to each one of those things, because day-to-day variance of our capabilities is a real thing. Normal processes are real. So that's probably the biggest thing. And what does that mean in terms of training day to day, or lifting or exercising, or whatever you want to call this stuff, is really that, get into the gym, do what you're planning on doing, like lift wise, because that still makes sense, like rotating through your different movements on a scheduled basis so that you have time to recover. That's good programming. But then sometimes, like, okay, I'm going to hit this percentage or this RPE, or I'm going to add 5 pounds, or whatever your metric is of progress. And sometimes you get into the gym and it's just not happening. And then, like, what do? You got to punt, right? So what I do is I just do less, or I shift goals. And shifting goals, I think, is an important thing to keep in mind. So like today I'd been sitting around the last 3 days way too much in a chair, an office chair, bent over, and I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. 2 days of back-to-back meetings, talking of technical stuff, trying to stay awake, having to run the computer, run the PowerPoint, and then on Monday I was getting stuff ready for these meetings. So yeah, it's just been a lot of mental focus, and I'm just tired. So yeah, that translates into what's going to happen in the gym, right? I don't have as much energy, so my lifts are going to not be as good as I want them to be. Last week I was hitting, like, I think got up to 205 for a triple or something on close grip bench press, and that's pretty decent. Not strong or great, but good for where I'm at considering where my shoulders are at. But today, got in, warmed up, things felt okay. It's pretty hot. It's in the 80s, mid 80s. So didn't need as much actual warm up because things were warm and loose. But once I got going, like 135 is okay. Then I said, well, let me go to 155, not skip to 185. Let me hit that dime plate in between. And then I went to 180. So I did 135, did 155. 155, I was like, so today's not going to be as strong as it was last week. And then I hit 185, and 185 was fine. I hit 5 reps clean, probably like RP 887, something. Didn't really register what it was, because I was like, I'm just going to hit the 185 for 5, and then I'm going to scale back from there. And then I hit that. Then I said, all right, well, I still want to get something done. I've got stuff set up, so what do? I got to shift my goal. So I did 2 cluster sets, like 2 rounds of 3 sets of 5 at 135. So not a lot of weight on a bar, but it's like do 5 reps, rest 10, 15, 20 seconds, then do another 5 reps and do that again, then hit another 5 reps. Then I rested like a minute or two in between, got a little bit of recovery, and then another cluster like that. And I'm done. That's enough. So yeah, like one of the things I'd say is a really important thing that I wish I had learned earlier was that the programming is kind of in the abstract. They are esoteric goals. They are things that you want to aspire to, but they are not hard-written thresholds that are going to determine objectively whether or not you succeeded or failed in the gym. And I think that's an important thing to remember, especially as we just get older. And I think things vary more day to day as we get older. We've got more things to go wrong, you know, arthritis flare-ups, accumulation of other injuries, and just the regular stress of day-to-day life, you know, taking care of kids, families, mortgages, whatever. So anyhow, that'd be my big takeaway for today's ramble. If I could know, if there's something I could have changed earlier, it would have been, yeah, just listen to my body a little bit better, because there's some times where I was like, nope, I got to hit this weight. You know, I've got, you know, the one that comes to mind immediately is something like press. When I was really pushing my press hard, like, okay, today I've got something heavy for a triple, 235 for a triple on overhead press, and I got to hit it. And I would grind those out. One time, I remember, again, press was just, that was the bane of my existence. It's like I had to hit these numbers or else I wasn't doing what I need to do. Like one time I went to do 195 for a set of 5, I think was the target, and cut the bar out, and I think I hit one and then I failed. Racked it, and then got really pissed off, and then grinded out this dirty set of 5. Probably not the best thing to do. I mean, I did push my press up. I mean, I've mentioned in other videos, I had a press like 260, which isn't huge, but it's a good number. But that came at costs, and you know, probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. Looking back, I'm dealing with stuff now that sucks. Maybe wouldn't be as bad if I hadn't pushed as hard. But you know, listen, I did what I did. I can't take things back, and living a life of regrets is not going to be all that useful. But if I could have changed things, yeah, I probably would have done a little bit better listening to my body. You know, if I failed to lift, rack it, change the weight, shift the goal. Pay more attention to those things like RPE or RIR. Like, what are those decent? I don't want to say they're not fully objective, but they're subjective, but they're still, they're qualitative but real assessments of how I feel that day and how strong I think I am, and what do I have in terms of volume capability as well. Because it's one thing to not only execute pure strength or display of skill, but another one is just, if you're exhausted and you got a big volume day planned, don't do it. That might be the time to say, all right, I have not been sleeping well, or I'm just exhausted, did a bunch of other stuff today. Let me get into the gym, let me hit a few heavy singles, and then I'm done. Just something to go through the range of motion, and just, you know, kind of a calibration exercise. Again, you know, if we're not lifting for competition or any other sort of, if we don't have a specific metric that we have to achieve by a certain time, then we're just out here lifting for the sake of lifting. And so if that's the case, then let's keep those goals in mind and not do things that cause injury or just, you know, wear us out emotionally, so that we don't continue to get out into the gym and lift and get all those benefits that lifting heavy weights can impart upon us. You know, it's a great way to release stress. It's a great way to feel like you've done something physical in that day. So those are important things, but those don't have a hard number tied to them. Like, lifting a heavy weight, what does that mean? It's heavy for that day. How many times do I do it? Enough times that felt good doing it. I got a little bit sweaty. I feel like I accomplished something. All right, keep doing that. And that's, again, and I talked about this as well, like that's going to integrate. That's going to cause that change that you're looking for. You're going to accumulate muscle mass. You're going to raise your basic metabolic rate, which is going to also help you hopefully, wear fat down. All the stuff that you want will happen if you're just accumulating decent volume. And so tangential, but again, related to that, things that, I wish I'd known. Again, shifting goals. This is kind of a little bit of a meander, but I want to wrap it up here. So those shifting goals and things I'd known better, like readjusting what that session was going to be for that day. The idea that there's, people talk about junk volume. There's no junk volume either, right? Any volume is volume. I mean, sure, sometimes it's lightweight, but if you execute lightweight with really slow tempo, there's something to be said for that. If you accumulate a lot of volume, but with a really rapid, explosive movement, there's something to be said for that as well. Both of those train different things, like, the really slow tempo kind of stuff. Even if it's really light, that's training you in a certain way. If you train explosive reps, that's training you in a certain way. So again, there's no junk volume. And one of the things I wish I knew better was to assess how I felt in the middle of that session or the beginning of the session, and shift those goals smartly so that I could continue to lift and avoid injury, which I've had some injuries in the past, and that's kept me out of the gym for sometimes months at a time. So if I just shifted some goals, maybe I would have had a little bit more accumulated strength or just a little bit more mass over that period of time. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on that. I could probably meander for another half hour, but we'll cut it there. And if you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but it's just going to be my opinion. Thanks. Peace.